Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we don't just skim the surface of information. Oh no, we take a stack of sources, could be articles, research, maybe even our own notes, and we just plunge right in.
We really do. Extracting those important nuggets, the surprising bits, sometimes the really mind-bending stuff.
And today, folks, we are embarking on a journey that, well, it truly defies gravity and, frankly, time itself. Our sources for this deep dive, they're utterly unique. Honestly, they read like the most gripping science fiction story you could imagine.
But underneath that surface.
Exactly. Beneath the sci-fi sheen, they grapple with profoundly real scientific and philosophical questions, about time, causality, the ripple effect.
The incredible fragility of history itself.
Yes. So we're going to unpack this unexpected journey of a starship. Finds itself way out of place, way out of time.
A temporal anomaly.
Right, and the extraordinary, sometimes really desperate efforts they had to take to maintain the fabric of the past, present, and, well, future.
It's quite a story.
So get ready for a deep dive that's truly, and I mean this literally, out of this world.
What's really fascinating here, I think, is how a seemingly random event, almost mundane, a starship on a routine resupply run.
Just doing its job.
Exactly. How that can just unravel into such a complex, high-stakes web of cause and effect. So our core subject today is exactly that. An accidental, pretty catastrophic leap through time, and the extraordinary, sometimes morally ambiguous measures taken to correct it.
Right. What do you do in that situation?
Well, the mission of this particular deep dive is to extract those critical insights from this very specific temporal incident. We're focusing really intensely on the cascade of events that followed.
Okay.
Their profound implications for, historical integrity and the almost unbearable burden of responsibility placed on those who, inadvertently become stewards of the timeline.
Wow, stewards of the timeline. That's heavy.
It is. We're looking at how one unexpected moment can trigger this ripple effect across centuries, demanding a meticulous reevaluation of what must be.
Okay, so let's set the scene, the cosmic stage for this rather spectacular mishap.
Let's do it.
Our sources place us aboard the Starship Enterprise, a name I'm sure many of you listening will recognize.
Oh, absolutely.
They were, by all accounts, on what was supposed to be a totally routine resupply route, just a standard milk run heading to Starbase 9.
Nothing unusual.
Nothing unusual at all, everything proceeding as planned, systems humming, crew doing their thing, when suddenly, without even a flicker of warning, the whole situation just changes, instantly.
Right.
The captain's log, which, we've had access to for this, describes the terrifying appearance of this object as just being there like it fell out of the sky or something.
It appeared. Poof.
Right. Not a predicted comet or asteroid. It was the sudden, horrifying discovery of what the crew quickly ID'd as a black star of high gravitational attraction.
A black star.
Yeah.
Not something you encounter every day.
Not at all. Imagine, just for a moment, the sheer crushing weight of something that dense, that powerful, just appearing in your path.
Exerting this irresistible pull.
Exactly. This wasn't something they were looking for, no scientific mission into the unknown. It was simply this enormous, unpredicted, and utterly overwhelming force that instantly started dragging them in.
Towards its center, yeah.
The sheer abruptness of it is really striking, almost like the universe just, snapped its fingers and threw this cosmic curveball right at them.
And that black star, it presented an immediate and frankly, dire predicament.
Yeah.
The Enterprise, despite all its advanced tech, was being dragged toward it, just pulled relentlessly into the maw of this unknown thing.
Not gently, I assume.
Oh, not at all. It required all warp power in reverse to pull us away.
Huh.
Think about that. The incredible strain on the engines, on the ship's structure itself.
Wow. Full power in reverse.
It wasn't a graceful maneuver. It was raw, desperate power. A titanic struggle against this overwhelming primal force.
So how did they get away?
Well, the analogy used in the sources is incredibly vivid, actually. It really helps you grasp the physics. It was like snapping a rubber band. That moment of extreme tension, stretched to the breaking point, and then the violent recoil.
So the breakaway
Didn't just free them, it propelled them. Sent them plunging through space, out of control to stop here wherever we are.
Out of control. Oh, boy.
The immediate aftermath on the Enterprise was, well, predictably, pure chaos. Reports flooding the bridge. Secondary systems, everything is the urgent voice from engineering.
So they're crippled.
Pretty much. They were left on impulse power only. Their mighty warp engines non-operational.
Which, for a starship, is.
It's like a jetliner losing all but one engine. barely able to maintain altitude, metaphorically speaking.
But they survived the initial encounter.
Yes. Amidst the crisis, the engineering chief, Mr. Scott, somehow managed, through sheer grit and engineering genius, to hold them in orbit. A precarious one, but orbit nonetheless.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. This initial event, remember, was just meant to be an escape from this natural, albeit terrifying phenomenon.
Right, get away from the black star.
But it ironically became the very catalyst for their primary and infinitely more complex problem. Temporal displacement.
Ah, so the escape caused the time jump.
Exactly. Yeah. The desperate struggle just to survive that initial encounter directly launched them into this entirely unforeseen dimension of difficulty. They exchanged a physical threat for an existential one.
Wow.
It really highlights how even the most advanced societies can be utterly at the mercy of forces beyond their control or even their full understanding. A tactical escape becomes a historical catastrophe.
So, okay, picture this scene. They're battered, systems are down, but they're stable somehow in orbit around this familiar-looking blue and green planet, Earth. But the immediate relief of surviving the black star, that quickly gives way to this profound, chilling realization. The captain asks the obvious question, orbit where, Mr. Spock?
And the answer?
Simple. Earth, Captain.
Right.
Delivered with that characteristic Vulcan precision, but you can imagine the unspoken dread.
Because it becomes apparent very quickly.
Oh, terrifyingly apparent. This isn't their Earth. Not the vibrant, advanced Earth of the 23rd century they call home.
How do they figure that out?
The critical detail, the undeniable proof, emerges when they pick up this garbled, faint signal on their comms array.
Okay.
After some frantic work, they manage to clarify it. It's a 5.3 news summary, and what it announces just sends a shiver down your spine.
What does it say?
Cape Kennedy. The first manned moonshot is scheduled for Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, wow. The moonshot.
Think about that moment, that dawning horror. It's not just a fuzzy signal, it's a timestamp. A stark, undeniable confirmation they've been hurled not just across space, but backward through time.
Connecting those seemingly disparate dots, right?
Yeah.
The implications become undeniably clear, like pieces of a horrifying puzzle just snapping into place.
Yeah.
The manned moonshot, that term is so iconic. It was a pivotal event in Earth's history. Happened in the late 1960s.
A period long, long past for the Enterprise crew.
Exactly. And the chilling confirmation from Spock, it just seals their fate. Apparently, Captain, so are we.
So that whiplash.
That initial whiplash effect from escaping the black star. It wasn't just physical propulsion. It had propelled them, as the sources describe it, directly into a time warp backward.
Incredible.
So this wasn't just a geographical misplacement, a navigational error. It was a profound, accidental temporal displacement landed them squarely in Earth's pre-spaceflight past.
Which opens up a whole new can of worms.
Oh, absolutely. This introduction of time travel, it immediately brings up an entirely new set of challenges. It goes way beyond just fixing the ship or getting home.
Yeah, like what?
Well, it raises immediate critical questions about the very integrity of the timeline. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just about figuring out how to get themselves home.
Right.
It's about ensuring there is a home to get back to. Their very presence, even if it's accidental, totally unintended, carries the potential to irrevocably alter their own future, to erase their own existence, or fundamentally change the history that led to Starfleet itself.
That's terrifying.
It demands an entirely new focus, time travel ethics, the incredibly delicate act of historical preservation, the dire consequences of a single unintended interaction.
So their mission changes completely.
Instantly. It transformed from one of survival to one of absolute historical guardianship, with the fate of their entire future just hanging precariously in the balance.
Okay, so now imagine the reaction down on 1960s Earth, this sudden, unexpected, colossal arrival.
Yeah, from their perspective.
The Enterprise finds itself directly over what our sources identify as the Omaha installation, a significant military facility.
Not exactly a subtle place to appear.
Not at all. Naturally, this prompts an immediate, intense, and utterly bewildered military response. You can almost hear the urgency, the rising panic in the radio transmissions we looked at.
Like what?
Things like, watch the scope. Air defense will want to send somebody up to get a closer look. I think we have a real UFO in our hands.
A real UFO. They weren't wrong.
Right. This wasn't subtle. It was a massive alien craft suddenly hovering over a strategic location. And, just as you'd expect, 2 flights are scrambled. Interceptors rapidly closing in on this mysterious object.
So for the people below, the pilots.
For them, this is truly a first contact scenario, albeit completely accidental, uninvited, and deeply, deeply unsettling. It's that moment the impossible becomes undeniably real, right there in their skies.
And flipping that perspective, for the interceptor pilot, the situation's equally fraught with tension and probably a kind of awe, right?
Must be.
We hear these crisp, urgent transmissions. J4, this is Blackjack. We're tracking both you and the UFO.
They're locked on.
Yeah. Blue J4, one of the pilots, manages to get excruciatingly close, achieves visual contact.
What does he see, or how does he describe it?
His report back is this mix of, professional assessment and sheer, unadulterated wonder. Where the thing is, it's big. 2 cylindrical projections on top, 1 below. Purpose undetermined.
Trying to make sense of the impossible.
Exactly. He's trying to describe something utterly alien in familiar terms, grasping for understanding. Meanwhile, on the Enterprise, their advanced scanners, even though they're damaged, are working.
What did they see?
They quickly identify the approaching craft as an interceptor equipped with missiles, possibly armed with nuclear warheads.
Nuclear warheads? Oh, that complicates things.
But that detail is absolutely crucial. While it's primitive by Starfleet standards, like a mosquito buzzing around the giant,
yeah,
such weaponry, especially with nukes, poses a severe existential threat to the damaged Enterprise in its current vulnerable state.
So they're not invulnerable?
Not at all. They're technologically superior, sure, but they're simultaneously vulnerable to a direct hit from even this relatively basic tech if it were to detonate.
It's a strange dynamic.
It highlights this complex, terrifying dynamic where advanced capability doesn't equal invulnerability in an unexpected, historically sensitive environment. The contrast between 1960s tech and understanding versus the Enterprise's reality sets up this truly dangerous, asymmetrical confrontation.
Where nobody really knows what the other side is capable of.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the immediate challenge for the Enterprise isn't just avoiding detection, it's neutralizing a direct threat without causing any more historical disturbance. A truly impossible tightrope walk.
So, with this armed interceptor closing fast, a direct threat, Captain Kirk has to make a split-second call. Incredibly decisive and profoundly risky.
What does he do?
He tells Scotty, the chief engineer, Scotty, activate tractor beam, lock onto that aircraft, and hold it out there.
Tractor beam on a 1960s jet.
Yeah. Now, for those maybe not familiar, a tractor beam is basically this powerful energy field. Lets a ship physically grab and hold objects at a distance, usually used for towing, salvaging, that kind of thing.
But Scotty hesitates, right?
He does. Ever the pragmatist, the guy who knows the structural limits of everything. He immediately voices deep concern. Warns Kirk, this type of aircraft might be too fragile to take our tractor beam.
He knows their tech, designed for starships, asteroids maybe.
Right. It might be way too powerful for a flimsy 20th century jet, and unfortunately his concern is tragically warranted.
No.
The outcome is grim and quick. Aircraft is breaking up, Captain.
Tore it apart.
An unintended but devastating consequence. Using future tech, designed for a different reality. In a fragile past, the sound of metal tearing, the debris, must have been horrifying.
So, faced with the plane breaking up, the pilot in mortal danger, another split-second decision.
Driven by, what, the need to save lives? But also the reality of their situation.
Both, I think. Kirk orders the transporter room. Can you lock onto the cockpit of that aircraft? Try and beam that pilot aboard.
Transporter? Okay.
And suddenly, this piece of incredible future tech materializes the individual aboard the Enterprise. He's identified. Captain John Christopher, United States Air Force, serial number 4857932.
And Christopher is, understandably,
utterly bewildered.
Yeah.
Disoriented, terrified. His immediate questions just tumble out. What's going on here? Where am I? What happened? You people, who are you?
How does Kirk handle that?
Well, Kirk, ever the diplomat, even in crisis, is apologetic for the abruptness of it all, but he's also deliberately evasive.
Yeah.
Says something like, we'll tell you what we decide to tell you in a few moments.
Buying time.
Buying time. But this specific moment, the abduction of Captain Christopher, it raises an immediate, profound ethical question.
Was it justified?
Exactly. From a practical view, maybe it couldn't be helped for Kirk. He saved the pilot from certain death. No time to think.
What?
But it instantly, irrevocably, creates a major time travel paradox. They haven't just interacted physically destructively. They've removed a key individual from the past. Plucked him right out of his timeline.
Setting the stage for ripples.
Unforeseen ripple effects, potentially far more catastrophic than just a UFO sighting. The ethical dilemma is profound. Saving one life, adhering to a core principle, but have they inadvertently jeopardized countless others, or even their entire future.
It's that classic quandary.
Utilitarian versus deontological, playing out in space and time. The immediate good versus the potentially catastrophic long-term consequences.
Okay, so here they are, stranded in the past. They've got Captain Christopher aboard a 20th century guy, completely reeling from this unbelievable experience.
Totally out of his depth.
And the Enterprise crew now faces this incredibly delicate task, revealing the truth. Kirk carefully tries to explain. We're from your future. A time warp placed us here. It was an accident.
How does Christopher react, as you'd expect?
Pretty much. Initial reaction, utter skepticism, bordering on disbelief. His immediate, almost comical response really sums it up from his perspective.
I never have believed in little green men.
Still trying to process it all. Exactly. He's trying to process the ship, his plane disintegrating, and now this fantastical claim. It's a perfectly human response to an unbelievable situation.
But for the Enterprise crew, it's anything but funny.
Oh no, for them it's cosmic survival.
And this is precisely where the profound implications of their accidental trip really hit home. It morphs from just a tactical problem, getting home, into an existential crisis.
Because of Christopher.
Because of what he knows or could learn, Kirk gives this stark, chilling assessment to his crew. Christopher cannot return him to Earth, Captain. He already knows too much about us and is learning more.
He's seen too much.
Spock then synthesizes the dire warning, paints this truly terrifying scenario about what could happen if Christopher, or anyone from the past, gets future knowledge.
What's the fear?
He says, suppose an unscrupulous man were to gain certain knowledge of man's future. Such a man could manipulate key industries, stocks, and even nations, and in so doing, change what must be.
Change history.
And if it is change, Captain, you and I, and all that we know might not even exist.
Whoa. Erased from existence?
It's not just about keeping secrets. It's an existential threat to their reality. Imagine the chaos. Someone knowing the path of tech, corporations rising and falling, war outcomes, stock market, centuries in advance.
It would completely destabilize everything.
Could collapse economies, render discoveries moot by introducing them too early, maybe even prevent the conditions that led to Starfleet itself. The threat isn't just to their lives, but to the entire future timeline they came from.
So they have this huge responsibility now.
Profound, almost unbearable. These accidental tourists now have to prevent their presence and Christopher's knowledge from unraveling their own timeline, erasing their own history. It underscores the immense power and danger of knowledge across time.
Okay, amidst all this high-stakes temporal drama, existential threats, ethical knots, we get this little touch of something unexpected and, honestly, kind of funny.
What's that?
It's this persistent, quirky, almost charming problem with the Enterprise's own advanced computer system. Yeah. Kirk's exasperation is just palpable when he tries to talk to it. He sounds like a parent scolding a kid. You will not address me in that matter. Comput.
And he leans into the console, complaining with this almost defeated sigh. I wouldn't mind so much if only it didn't get so affectionate.
Affectionate, the main computer.
Can you imagine? Starship Captain facing timeline destruction, and his computer is being overly familiar, maybe a bit clingy. It's such a wonderfully human problem for an advanced machine.
It truly is delightful. A needed moment of levity in all that tension.
Yeah.
And the sources give this wonderfully absurd explanation for the malfunction.
Oh, do tell.
Apparently, the computer was sent off to Cygnet 14 for general repair and maintenance.
Okay.
And Cygnet 14, it turns out, is a planet dominated by women who apparently felt the ship's logical computer system lacked personality.
Oh, no, don't tell.
They gave it one, female, of course.
Of course.
We're even told it has an unfortunate tendency to giggle.
A giggling Starship computer while they're trying to save history. That's amazing. It's more than just a glitch. It's a full-blown personality implant. Imagine it offering unsolicited emotional support during red alert. Oh, Captain, you look stressed, dear.
Or chiming in during tense negotiations.
It provides this fantastic, humorous interlude, contrasts the high-stakes dilemma with this amusing, unexpected tech glitch, highlights how even advanced tech can have these human flaws, reflecting its creators.
It's brilliant. Reminds us there's still people dealing with extraordinary circumstances.
And sometimes those circumstances include a computer that's just a little too friendly. Raises fascinating questions about AI, too, right? When does personality become, well, affectionate and giggly?
Maybe the Cygnet 14 engineers had a different definition of optimal?
Perhaps.
Okay, so just when you thought things couldn't get any more complicated, any more existentially tangled, Spock, The epitome of logic drops an absolute bombshell.
After the computer incident.
Right after. Initially, he'd given this preliminary assessment, saying Christopher had made no record of any irrelevant contribution to history. Basically, from their future view, he was a nobody.
Okay, so maybe returning him isn't that critical.
That's what they thought. But then, as only Spock can, he admits to an error in my computations. Leads to an historic occasion.
An error. Spock made an error.
Apparently. He does a cross-check on that factor, digs deeper into the historical data, and the truth that emerges is utterly staggering.
What is it?
Captain Christopher's son, Colonel Sean Jeffrey Christopher, headed or will head the first successful Earth-Saturn probe, which is a rather significant event.
His son headed the Saturn probe.
Wow. And Christopher, naturally, is completely flabbergasted, jaw on the deck. Wait a minute, I don't have a son.
The weight of that revelation. It reshapes everything.
Completely.
This is truly where the implications become absolutely critical. It solidifies Christopher's accidental abduction from just an incident into a crisis of historical magnitude.
Because of his son?
Because Dr. McCoy, ever the blunt pragmatist, lays it out. Unless we return Captain Christopher to Earth, there will be no Colonel Sean Jeffrey Christopher to go to Saturn. This is it. This is the fixed point in history that, for all their understanding of time travel, cannot be changed without catastrophic repercussions for their own time.
So the mission shifts again.
Fundamentally, it's no longer just about preventing contamination or erasing their presence. Now it's about actively ensuring a specific, pivotal historical event happens.
An event tied to one man's existence and future lineage.
Exactly. And Spock's earlier, almost dismissive, poor choice of words about Christopher being irrelevant.
Yeah.
It truly highlights the immense complexity, maybe the inherent arrogance, of analyzing historical impact from the future. What seems irrelevant might be the linchpin of centuries of progress.
It makes you wonder.
It raises that philosophical question. How many seemingly ordinary lives, everyday people, are truly pivotal to major breakthroughs in the development of civilization without us ever realizing their profound, invisible importance?
Like hidden anchors in time.
Precisely. It underscores how delicate the balance is, how intertwined individual destinies are with history's grand sweep, and how vulnerable that tapestry is to one accidental pluck of a single thread.
So the Enterprise crew now carries this immense burden, not just not interfering, but actively guaranteeing a specific future.
A heavy weight indeed.
Okay, now they understand. They have to return Captain Christopher to his own time. Absolutely critical. But they're faced with this monumental problem that goes beyond just dropping him off.
The evidence?
The tangible, undeniable, physical evidence of their presence in 1960s America. Christopher himself details it grimly. His plane, the one torn apart by the tractor beam, crashed in an open section of southern Nebraska. That alone is going to raise questions.
A crashed, advanced-looking jet.
But far more critically, when he made visual contact with the Enterprise just before his plane disintegrated.
They turned on his cameras.
He had the presence of mind to turn on my wing cameras.
Yeah.
Got pretty clear pictures of the massive Starship.
Oh, photographic evidence, that's bad.
And if that wasn't enough, compounding the problem, air defense, ADC control, was probably recording my radio transmissions as he reported the giant cylindrical object.
So wreckage, photos, and recorded transmissions.
They didn't just visit. They left a verifiable, undeniable, technologically advanced trail right in the middle of the 20th century.
And this creates a truly monumental, almost insurmountable problem for them. Because in the 1960s, yeah, UFOs were a thing, culturally.
Right. Flying saucers and all that.
But, as our sources detail, they were typically being dismissed as weather balloons, sundogs, explainable things, at least publicly. There was this strong tendency to rationalize away the strange.
But this is different.
Way different. The crushed plane wreckage, the indisputable photos of an impossible craft, the official military radio logs. It means it will be impossible to explain us as anything other than a genuine UFO.
Not a weather balloon this time.
Definitely not. Possibly alien. Definitely destructive. Imagine the panic, the societal disruption that would cause. It's not just a blurry photo. It's a military jet destroyed, clear evidence of ET presence.
It could change everything. Trigger an arms race, alter science, politics.
Exactly. This tangible evidence creates a direct link between their presence and a historical anomaly that could be catastrophic for their own timeline.
So the mission becomes twofold.
Critically intertwined. Return Christopher to ensure his son's future, In 80, completely, meticulously erase all traces of their visit from the historical record.
Which means a stealth mission.
An incredibly intricate, high-stakes stealth operation, venturing into a past utterly unprepared for their tech, all to prevent a historical paradox that could unravel their own existence. It's a race against time, not just to go home, but to ensure home still exists when they get there.
So stakes unimaginably high, clock ticking, Kirk makes this incredibly risky call to beam down to the base himself, accompanied by Sulu, the helmsman.
Going into the lion's den.
Pretty much. And Captain Christopher, surprisingly, offers to sketch a layout of the place, provides crucial insider knowledge, shows them exactly where the critical locations are.
Which are?
Specifically, the record section in the photo lab. That's where they need to retrieve all those reports and photos, the visual proof, the recordings, anything that proves the Enterprise was ever there.
A precise, covert op, made harder by the era's tech and security. Basic to them, but still an obstacle. And of course, as often happens in these high-pressure situations, things don't go entirely smoothly.
What goes wrong?
There's an unfortunate accident. The Enterprise inadvertently beams up another unwanted passenger, an air police sergeant from the base.
Beamed him up by mistake. How?
Maybe caught in the transporter beam during the mission chaos, maybe wandered into the wrong spot at the wrong time. Unclear. But Kirk immediately orders him kept contained in the transporter room.
Limit his exposure. Minimize contamination.
Exactly. It highlights the immense pressure, the almost impossible need for absolute stealth.
Any other complications?
Well, the sources mention this rather charming yet problematic detail about the primitive computer at the base. Notes that if you start it up, it'll make the devil's own noise.
Ah, a noisy old computer.
Imagine. Clunky, vacuum tube-era machine, humming, whirring, clacking loud enough to give away your position. Adds another layer of complexity.
Can't just barge in, have to be surgical, quiet.
It underscores how even a minor oversight, an accidental discovery, encountering even rudimentary tech, could jeopardize the entire mission. Even with future tech, human factors and past limitations are huge variables. They're in a world both alien in its simplicity and surprisingly dangerous.
And then, despite all the planning, the stealth. The worst happens. Kirk gets caught.
Captured. By who?
During the retrieval mission, he's nabbed by a suspicious Colonel Fellini. Leads to this tense, dramatic interrogation.
Oh boy, how does Kirk handle that?
Kirk, ever the quick thinker, master of deflection, immediately uses evasiveness and humor to buy time, disorient Fellini. When Fellini demands how he got in, Kirk deadpans. I popped in out of thin air.
Laugh at Kirk.
And then, playing perfectly on the Colonel's frustration, the disbelief of it all, he delivers that classic line, I'm a little green man from Alpha Centuria. A beautiful place. You ought to see it.
Trying to disarm with absurdity, make himself seem like a lunatic.
Exactly. But Colonel Fellini is decidedly not amused. Levels serious charges. Sabotage, espionage, unauthorized entry, burglary.
Pretty serious, especially in the Cold War 60s.
Very. Carries heavy penalties. But Kirk's defiance remains. Even witty. When Fellini threatens, I am going to lock you up for 200 years, Kirk coolly replies.
Right.
That ought to be just about right. A clever nod to his own temporal displacement that Fellini totally misses.
Well, Kirk stalls. What's happening back on the Enterprise?
A frantic rescue mission is being coordinated. Spock, McCoy, and crucially Captain Christopher are the key players.
Christopher helps.
He proves invaluable. Grappling with the truth, the fate of his future son, he provides the exact beam-down coordinates for the interrogation rooms, allows for a precise, direct extraction of Kirk.
That's a huge turnaround for Christopher. It's a critical turning point. Despite his initial resistance, his duty to report, he's ultimately swayed by the argument of his family, his legacy. He initially resisted over my dead body, but McCoy's blunt logic about his son shifts his perspective entirely.
He chooses his son's future
over his duty to the present. Once Kirk and the others are rescued, that accidentally beamed up sergeant, he's also transported back to the base.
Closing the loop. No witnesses.
Theoretically, no lingering witnesses, no accidental exposure, no remaining evidence of their impossible visit. It underscores that delicate balance, persuasion, duty, and the profound impact of a potential future on present decisions.
Okay, so after all that chaos, Kirk rescued, evidence theoretically erased, Christopher and the bewildered sergeant now aboard the Enterprise. They're still stuck. Firmly in the past.
And desperate for a way home.
They've cleaned up their mess, ensured Christopher's lineage, but they need to get back to their own time without tearing themselves apart.
What's the plan?
The only viable solution they can figure out. reverse the very forces that put them here. What Spock theorizes as a slingshot effect like the one that put us here.
Use the cause of the problem as the solution. Bold.
Incredibly risky, banking on replicating those exact cosmic forces, but in reverse. Spock lays out the chillingly simple mechanics.
How does it work?
My computations indicate that if we fly toward the sun, seek out its magnetic attraction, then pull away at full power, the whiplash will propel us into another time warp.
Using the sun's gravity. Elegant, terrifying, born of desperation.
Really?
And Spock elaborates further, right, on the intricate temporal mechanics of this highly dangerous maneuver.
Yeah, how does the time part work?
He explains that, logically, as we move faster and faster toward the sun, we'll begin to move backward in time.
Moving backward in time.
We'll actually go back beyond yesterday, beyond the point when we first appeared in the sky. Imagine that.
Yeah.
The ship literally rewinding through days, weeks maybe, as they accelerate toward the sun.
Wow. And then...
Then comes the crucial razor-thin window. Breaking free will shoot us forward in time, slingshotting them through the temporal barrier back into their own era.
And what about Christopher and the sergeant?
The plan is meticulous, precise. We'll transport you back at a point before any of this happened. You won't have anything to remember because it never will have happened.
A clean slate.
The ultimate goal,
Yeah.
a pristine past. Their presence utterly erased from the historical record, a true temporal reset for everyone involved back then.
But that maneuver sounds insanely precise.
It raises that important, almost dizzying question. How precise must it be? We're talking an intricate cosmic dance with a star's immense gravity. Requires not just power, an almost impossible temporal control and calculation.
One tiny mistake.
One slight miscalculation, a fraction of a second too soon or too late breaking free. They could end up anywhere. Centuries too early, millennia too late, or worse, just scattered across space-time. The margin for error is incredibly narrow.
Demands absolute perfection.
From everyone, bridge to engineering, it really underscores the profound fragility of a timeline and the incredible responsibility on the Enterprise crew.
So, brilliant theory, terrifying execution. Scotty, the engineer, must have had thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. Scotty, as always, is the voice of professional, very real engineering concerns. While he's confident the engines can pull them free of the sun's unimaginable gravity,
He has another worry.
a much bigger worry. He tells Kirk, "What I am worried about, sir, that we may not have much control when we're thrown forward again."
Control after the slingshot.
Exactly. He outlines the terrifying possibilities. Stark, practical assessment. If I can't stop us soon enough, we may overshoot our time, ending up far in an unknown future. And if I stop the engine suddenly, the strain may tear us apart.
So either overshoot or break apart. Grim choices.
He concludes honestly, anyway, we do it means a mighty rough ride. It's not just surviving the slingshot, it's making a controlled, precise stop in their own time without obliterating the ship.
It's not just speed, it's control. Structural integrity under stresses they've never faced.
It truly highlights the immense engineering challenge, the sheer, almost unquantifiable risk. How do you even train for forces that literally bend time and space?
You can't, really.
The extreme forces, the narrow margin for error. The ride itself is described vividly, conveying that physical experience of pushing the ship to its absolute limit.
Like what?
Gaining speed now, Captain. We're now at warp 4, warp 7, off the dial. The chronometers, the clocks on the bridge are visible proof. Moving backward at dizzying speeds, then accelerating forward again as they hit that slingshot sweet spot.
Must have been intense.
It's a testament to the crew's skill, Scotty's genius, the ship's endurance, that they could even attempt it, let alone survive. The whole ship groaning, straining, every rivet tested, vibrating on the edge of obliteration.
And so the dramatic climax begins. Christopher and the sergeant, the unwitting time travelers, are prepped in the transporter room. Memory is about to be wiped clean.
The tension must be palpable.
You can feel it, the countdown echoing through the ship. 10 minutes, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Timing is everything.
At the absolute last possible second, a microsecond before the Enterprise first appeared in 1969, they are beamed down, memories gone.
And back on Earth.
Seconds after the Enterprise vanishes, Blue J4, that interceptor pilot, experiences a strange afterimage. Sees some kind of ship, but nothing could have moved that fast.
But it's dismissed.
Dismissed. True to preserving history, his superior chalks it up as another UFO, one of the many unexplained things of the era. History, for all intents and purposes, remains undisturbed. seamlessly rewoven.
Meanwhile, the Enterprise is in its own final desperate struggle.
Scotty's voice, strained but resolute. Engines are on us and they're buckling. The whole ship shaking violently, facing near catastrophe as they try to break their forward acceleration through time.
Trying to slow down from reality-bending speeds.
On the verge of being torn apart. But through sheer will, incredible skill, pushing engineering to its limits, they avert disaster, pull back from the brink. And then, the sweet, longed-for sound. The ultimate confirmation. Starfleet Control finally makes contact, voices clear through the static. The Enterprise is home.
Wow, they did it.
Mission accomplished, timeline preserved. Christopher and the Sergeant have no memory, ensuring Colonel Sean Jeffrey Christopher's birth and the future Saturn probe. The Enterprise returns, its impossible presence erased from the past. A perfect deep dive into the delicate fabric of time and destiny.
Where saving one critical life preserved an entire future, and the universe, for the moment, could breathe a collective sigh of relief. #outro.
So, after this truly incredible journey we've just unpacked, what does this all mean for us?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
We've delved deep into this narrative. Started with an accidental time leap caused by something as wild as a black star's sudden pull.
Unpredictable.
Then we saw these painstaking, high-stakes efforts to preserve a future that literally depended on it. We've uncovered surprising facts about, the inherent fragility of time itself.
The profound ethical dilemmas of intervention.
Absolutely. And the compelling narrative of a crew fighting not just for themselves, but for the very existence of their own history, their civilization.
And the sources reveal fascinating details, too, like even advanced tech having quirky personalities.
Thanks, Signet 14. And that the biggest threats to the timeline might not be alien invaders, but primitive tech used with force, or even just accidental knowledge.
It's a story that really reshapes how you might think about every decision, every moment, potentially.
It really does.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this deep dive truly underscores that profound concept of fixed points in history and the immensely powerful, yet often unseen, butterfly effect. It forces us to consider how seemingly small, individual lives, like Captain John Christopher and his future son, Colonel Sean Jeffrey Christopher, can be pivotally linked to major historical breakthroughs, to humanity's journey to the stars.
It highlights that incredibly delicate balance needed to maintain a coherent timeline, where one accident could unravel centuries.
It really reinforces the idea that knowledge is most valuable when it's understood, when it's applied with utmost care and responsibility.
Yeah.
Especially with stakes as high as the integrity of the past and, by extension, the future.
Absolutely. This story makes you think beyond the immediate events, beyond the grand narratives we usually focus on in history books.
Suggests a hidden complexity, right? A subtle interplay of cause and effect we rarely, if ever, get to actually see.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed. So here's a thought to leave you with. Imagine for a moment how many other seemingly small events, or even the lives of people we consider, ordinary, how many might be equally crucial to the future as we know it without us ever realizing their profound importance.
Their invisible role.
As temporal anchors in the grand tapestry of time. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?